Greetings everyone. A very warm welcome to today's lecture on International Women's Day 2021, Choose to Challenge. Let us ask a question. What prevents equality? So the answer would be, besides several other factors, it is patriarchy. And what is patriarchy? Patriarchy is a system which refers to male domination, to the power relationships by which men dominate women. And this domination is internalized by women themselves. A system whereby women are kept subordinate in a number of ways. It is a system by which men are privileged over women in several walks of life. So, what do men control? It is women's productive or labor power, women's reproduction, that is a husband's control over a wife's sexuality. Then the patriarchal state controls women's reproduction through several population control programs and several other rules and regulations. So basically, the very crucial aspect of a woman's life and what makes her identity is controlled. There are several patriarchal institutions, for example, family, and within the family it is boys who learn to assert and dominate girls, to submit and expect unequal treatment right from the beginning. A man is usually considered as a head of the family. In some traditional systems, men exchange women, producing inferiorized psychology of women, as has been pointed out by Sylvia Wolby. Then there are restrictions on women's mobility, property and other economic resources. Then religion also has played a very important role. In India, family law is largely governed by religious law. In all religions, women are subordinate to men, considered as inferior, impure and sinful. The religious influences over several kinds of policies also continue to play an important role. Then there is the issue of the legal system. In most countries, the legal system is both patriarchal as well as bourgeois. It favors men and the economically powerful classes. Then there are systems of jurisprudence. The judiciary, judges and lawyers are mostly men. However, the times are changing now and a large number of women are entering the legal profession. Then one can talk about the economic system and the economic institutions. Within a patriarchal economic system, men control the economic institutions, they own most property, direct economic activity, as well as they determine the value of different productive activities. Most productive work done by women is neither recognized nor paid for, and housework is completely discounted. So, the next important institution that can be talked about are the political systems and the institutions related to politics. Almost all political institutions in society at all levels are male dominated. In India, 50% reservation for women in panchayats has increased numbers but not effectiveness. Women in power, due to family linkages with important men, continue to prevail, and women in parliament now, though have in their representation has increased, but it still is something around 10 to 12%. Now coming to the institution of media, which is in the hands of upper caste men, it again propagates class and gender ideology. Several messages about male superiority and female inferiority are constantly repeated consciously or unconsciously. Then sexual violence, the way it is portrayed graphically, and the way women are not adequately represented in the profession also needs to be highlighted. Now, the next major institution that one can talk about are the educational institutions as well as the knowledge systems. Since learning and education became formal and institutionalized, men have assumed control over the whole areas of knowledge. Women were prevented in the past from studying scriptures and are unfavorably represented now in several STEM subjects, that is, subjects related to science, technology, engineering as well as mathematics. Then there is issue of institutionalized violence against women. Male violence is a routinely experienced problem by women. Domestic violence is considered again routine and normal. Sexual harassment on the streets is usually attributed to women's clothing. Then the issue of restricted mobility due to fear of rape is always there. Then female feticide, witch hunting, dowry murders again keep occurring at regular intervals. So, having highlighted all these problems that still remain after having so much of celebration around International Women's Day, we must all ponder over the change that must now come about. Now, let us discuss the aspect of feminist theory and what are the different theories that have played an important role in highlighting the several issues from time to time. So, first of all, one can talk about liberal feminists who were largely concerned with representation of women within the public spheres of modern life. Okay, so they raised the question as to why are women underrepresented and how do we make that representation more equal. Then next were radical feminists who kind of located relations of inequality in patriarchy, and they expanded the sites of politics not simply to public sphere but also the private sphere. So, here a statement that is very important and relevant in case of women is personal is political. So, what is happening in the bedroom, in the family, within the body of a woman is what would indicate how free or liberated she is. So, simply by participating in activities outside the home are not really going to bring about the required change. Then the next school of thought that can be talked about is postmodern feminists who agree that politics exists everywhere but resist the radical feminist impulse to define women and men. So, postmodern feminists are more interested in deconstructing the assumed naturalness of various political categories, including the category of women. Then one can talk about critical feminists who have raised the issue of class, race, sexuality, ethnicity, religion and so on in highlighting the prevailing discourses about femininity and masculinity. So, this is a much broader and a much logical kind of understanding that has culminated over the past few years. Now, when we are talking about so many contributions or so many changes that have come about at the level of theorization as well as at the level of practical performance, let us also look at the other side of the story, and that other side of the story is the dismal reality which we must not forget. In the Global Gender Gap Index 2020, out of 153 countries, India has slipped to 112th rank in Gender Gap Index. India's ranking is lower then China's, which is at 106th, Sri Lanka, which is at 102nd, Nepal, which is at 101st, and Bangladesh, which is at 50th. So, while women do 2/3 of world's work, but they receive only 10% of the world's income, and they own less than 1% of land. Women in developing countries on an average carry 20 liters of water per day over 6 kilometers. Women in many cases are the primary caregivers and balancing the challenges of work and family, and this problem has increased in a post-pandemic world further. Now, it is not as if these trends are only there in a country like India. The global trends also indicate these kind of discrepancies. Women in every society are vulnerable to abuse, but the threat is more severe for girls and women who live in developing societies. China has its own legacy of female infanticide due to government's rule of one child policy. So parents prefer having, if they are going to have one child only, so they prefer having a male child. In 1997, the World Health Organization declared more than 50 million women were estimated to be missing in China because of the institutionalized killing and neglect of girls due to Beijing's population control program. So we can see that how programs and policies that are made by governments have specific impact and very negative implications on women. Then one has to take into account the issue of assaults, and 45% of Ethiopian women have been assaulted in their lifetimes, and in 1998 48% of Palestinian women admitted to being abused by an intimate partner within the past year. There are several other shocking facts. As per UNDP report 2013 on Human Development Indicators, all South Asian countries except Afghanistan were ranked better for women than India. An Indian girl child aged 1 to 5 years is 75% more likely to die than the boy child, and this is such a disturbing statistics. A woman is raped once in every 20 minutes, and 10% of all crimes are reported to be of women. And only 29% of the national workforce are constituted by women, and only 26% of women have access to formal credit. Now, a question and a very valid query that arises here is why Indian women are lagging behind. So, the World Economic Forum has calculated gender gap between men and women in 4 key areas, that is health, education, economy and politics. In health and survival as well as economic opportunities, India is at the bottom of the pile. The Gender Gap Index has tried to measure the disadvantages women have vis-a-vis men in these areas. There exist several anomalies. The mean years of schooling for girls is 4.7 years, whereas for boys it is 8.2 years. In access to health also, women have lesser access to health care than men due to the practice of patriarchy, which gives preference to males. As per World Economic Forum, 4 large countries like Pakistan, India, Vietnam and China do not have the same access. Women in these countries do not have the same access to health as men. Girls are often withdrawn from school after they reach puberty, and their education or skill training is cut short. Most of the schools also do not have separate toilets for boys and girls, which has been a hurdle in behind low participation, and it promotes low participation of female students, especially post puberty, as has been indicated by the DICE data. Another major source of concern in India is female feticide and its consequence of having abnormally skewed sex ratio at birth at 91 girls for every 100 boys. So, while the Beti Bachao Beti Padhao campaign seems to have some impact, but it is not universal. Political representation of women in the parliament is low at 14.4%, which again can be described as 122 rank and 23% in the cabinet. India also has very few women on the boards of corporate companies, though the trends are changing now and we do come across a larger number of women in the boardrooms. Disappointing it has been that from 2006, when the first World Economic Forum Gender Gap report started, India has slipped 4 spots on gender parity, whereas Bangladesh has the highest gender equality in the region. So, what is need of the hour? The need of the hour is that if India's economic power has to be increased, then it would be greatly enhanced if women were given proper health care, education, economic opportunities, and if they could be better represented in the political institutions across the country. Now, this gender equality index takes into consideration several parameters. For example, body autonomy. The several parameters of body autonomy are a woman's control over her sexuality, reproduction, as well as legal protection. The next important parameter is autonomy within the family and household, what we call the private sphere. So, here freedom to marry and divorce, right to children's custody, decision making within the household are some important points. Then if we are talking about political power, then of course representation in political institutions and a higher proportion of women in managerial positions. Then talking about social resources, access to health and education, and talking about material resources, greater access to land, credit, houses, employment, income, paid and unpaid labor, as well as bridging the wage differentials between men and women are important. Then there are some other interesting parameters also that are taken into consideration, that is time. So, relative access of women to leisure, sleep, and the time that they spend in doing what they want. Then of course gender identity, that is rigidity of sexual division of labor. Another reality that has existed is that of gender violence, which again occurs throughout a woman's life, from prenatal, infancy, childhood, adolescence, reproductive and old age. The problem of domestic violence, trafficking, honor killings, which again are very specific to Indian society, are violation of basic human rights. Now, as you can see in this visual, that there is indication of how and why we should have equality. Why equality? Because it is equality that would boost innovation mindset, and this innovation mindset can further boost growth, production, effectiveness, and this innovation mindset is greatest in most equal cultures, as you can see in this graph. So, the performance can improve 6 times if there is equality in office environment. Diversity as a critical building block for innovation is also what needs to be understood. most equal cultures are 11 times greater than least equal cultures. An enormous opportunity that exists. Global gross domestic product could increase to US $8 trillion by 2028 if innovation mindset was raised merely by 10% in all countries. And how can we improve this innovation mindset? That is by bridging the gap between men and women. The OECD Gender Institutions and Development Database again is very important and relevant in this kind of a discussion. This database contains more than 60 data indicators of gender equality. It was introduced in 2006 by the OECD Development Center to provide a data tool to help researchers and policy makers analyze obstacles to women's socio-economic political development. It provides these gender related data for up to 162 countries ranging from Afghanistan to Zimbabwe. Now, as per this database of 2019, you can clearly see the kind of anomalies that exist and how more equality can result in better output. Then measuring gender equality, or the GID database, is a new tool for researchers as well as policy makers to quantify and measure gender equality, to build indicators of gender equality, and also to compare and analyze obstacles that exist in the path to achievement of gender equality. It includes institutional variables that range from intra-household behavior to social norms. So, having discussed all these problems that still continue to prevail, what emerges is that there is a need for transformative shift. The achievement of the ambitious sustainable development goals requires specific transformative shifts, integrated approaches and new solutions, particularly when it comes to advancing gender equality and the empowerment of all women and girls. Based on current trajectories, existing interventions will not suffice to achieve a planet 50-50 by 2030. So, the governments of the countries must arise and awake and take into consideration this alarm bell. Trends indicate a growing gender digital divide, and women are underrepresented in the field of science, technology, engineering, design, and from mobile banking to artificial intelligence and the internet. Also, women's ideas and experiences must influence and must prevail, and also they need to be more actively participating in all the innovations that are taking place. So, in conclusion, I would like to say that gender inequality is an important aspect which deserves special attention. Women and girls represent half the population, and our society has not been fair to this half. Their socio-economic status is improving, but gaps persist. Gender inclusive development should be our main aim for the overall development of our country. In India, despite several years of planned development and equal participation in economic and political activities has yet not been achieved. Economic development is not enough to shrink all gender disparities. Corrective policies are the need of the hour, which must focus on persisting gender gaps. Thanks a lot.